So you're traveling at night and need to pull over. But in the ancient Greek world, there were no hotels. There is a reason why that is the case, and Homer helps us to see it. In Homer's epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey, probably the greatest virtue that one can exhibit is the virtue of hospitality, of being hospitable to a guest. In both the Iliad and the Odyssey, we see the ways in which mortal creatures can be good hosts, they can be bad hosts. They can be good guests, they can be bad guests. But they can also be a good host to a god or a goddess. And so throughout these stories, we see this theme of hospitality come up again and again. The term that is used is xenai, to practice hospitality, to be a good guest, to be a good host. It's a relationship. And so I think this says a lot about the world of Homer, the world of the Greeks. And there's a lot that we could learn from it. Because even in the story of the Iliad, we see a prime example of hospitality gone awry. We see this when Paris comes to Troy, is a guest of the king, Menelaus, and he ends up, while staying with King Menelaus, he ends up taking his spouse, Helen of Troy. So here we have a great example of the way in which a guest dishonors his host. And in this story, what we see is that an entire war, thousands and thousands and thousands of lives are lost because of the experience of hospitality having gone awry. That things can go wrong with how we treat one another. And in this case, in the way in which a guest can treat a host. But we also see, just as equally, stories of great forms of hospitality. The way in which Telemachus, in the story of the Odyssey, welcomes the goddess Athena, not knowing that she is a goddess. The Athena disguises herself as an old man in the beginning of the book of the Odyssey, comes to Odysseus's house where his son welcomes the goddess Athena, takes care to care for her, takes the luggage from her, has her sit down, shares wine, has a basin of water to cleanse her hands from her journey. And all of this demonstrates the importance of belonging, of being in a place where one can feel at home. This is critical for Homer's epics because it says something about how we experience this world. Do we find ourselves belonging in this world? Do we have people, strangers even, foreigners, that help us find peace and tranquility, relaxation in this world? In Homer's age, there were not hotels, there were not motels, there were not Airbnbs. One didn't have to pay to stay in a place of comfort and relaxation when they were journeying, but rather a stranger, a foreigner, would open their house and create that sense of being cared for, the importance of their well-being. Well, this to me reflects the way in which the ancient world has a lot to teach us on what it means to be hospitable, what it says about whether or not we feel at home in this world, to the extent that we're able to help others feel at home. We see a similarity in Scripture. We see how Christ himself tells us that we will be judged by how we have welcomed him in the form of the hungry, of the sick, of the imprisoned. hospitality matters that much that our very salvation is judged based upon our ability, our willingness, our openness to allow guests to come in to our home and to feed them, to care for them. Thanks for watching. It means a lot. You know, these are conversations that I love to have and to be able to share with folks. My name is Father Dustin, and I've found a lot of value reading things philosophically, to think about our world in creative ways and imaginative ways that kind of brings about more engagement and also helps with relationships and just thinking about our world in new ways as it relates to things like truth and what is good, what is the good life, what is beautiful in our lives. So perhaps you should consider becoming a Patreon sponsor, and even maybe after watching some of these videos, the ones that you like it and share it, and then subscribe.